Hello guys, what's up? This is Mando-Bricks, and I know that I haven't actually, made videos on this in a while, but this is probably going to be my final video on my Firespray 31 Patrol and Attack Craft MOC, also known as Slave 1. So, I have obviously not had, any time to work on this, so that's why it's taking me so long. But I finally finished off the stuff that I've needed to, and I'm just about ready to show it to you guys. So, for since the last video, all of this was in basically two sections where you had a section that's more, going more downwards here, and then the angle change from here on out to go to the bottom. And now I have luckily unified the entire piece. So this entire thing is all one piece, one slope that goes all the way down. And this is all one united plate that also goes all the way down. Which looks a lot better. I was looking back at some of my past videos earlier, or not really past videos, but the snapshots from some of those when I had it, in the two pieces, and I at least think it looks a lot better now. So the color scheme is kind of varying from different grays to kind of a curve of black finishing it off. So that's kind of odd, but I think it all works together just fine, I guess. It's not really supposed to be completely, a perfectly clean and pristine, right off the line type of ship. So I guess I'll just go through the functionality that I have in that section for the most part, and that'll be most of it for the video, just because in the past videos I've already talked about a lot of the interior and those elements, and a lot of those really haven't been changed a whole lot, so it's not really worth going over them all over again, besides maybe one space in this section. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and start from the top. So looking at that area, there's, of course, the way that I build this, and I would recommend this to anyone that's building a MOC of this sort, find some sort of way to unify it and slope not only, vertically, but also horizontally. So as you can see, as it goes down, this line narrows as it goes down and gets wider as it goes up. And I achieved that by basically just creating rails and starting the slope with these elements. And, by placing those there, you can get the entire thing to slope, and then you can have a fully sloped area, because with, as example, the Lego sets, if you look at the newest one, actually no, this is not the newest, this is the second newest one, but there's this separation here because they wanted it to be thicker for the body and thinner for the tail, and you can't do that and not have a separation like that of some sort. So this is the route that I went, and I think that as far as making Slave 1 MOCs, obviously there are going to be different ways to pull off that connection, but that's probably going to be the route that you want to go. So besides that, I have this piece isn't really rebuilt. Obviously this entire area is, but I'm not really going to go over that. This is just different tiles and plates and curves and things. What was changed was this is the repeating blaster cannons, and I'll move the camera to show a frontal view of those, but those both pop out, and you can see in episode 2 those firing. If you look at where the lasers are coming from, it's actually the middle of the ship as opposed to the bottom of it. So I'll go ahead and move that now. So here is that, and that's all I really have to show for that. I mean, it's really just simple hinges. That's what they look like on the inside. That's just simple lightsaber hilt pieces, and those just nicely fold away until they're level with the rest of the ship. So that transition is always good to get right, just that it's not super obvious and everything. even though you're gonna have the hinges on the outside. There are ways to eliminate that by, making maybe a Technic hinge or something on the inside, putting in multiple parts so it kind of moves out and then back in a sense, using certain Technic elements. But that takes up a lot of space. And being that I wanted to include a full interior in this, and that's part of the whole point of this build series, that wasn't really as much of an option, even though I did try it out. So as we move down, this section is very basic. There's really nothing to note on. The main thing that I changed through all of this, though, is the bottom part, so I'll go ahead and move to that. Okay, so here's the bottom section, and it is kind of thrown together in a sense. A lot of it is, okay, not really thrown together. It took me a really long time to get this to where it is, actually, which is kind of sad. But a lot of it is kind of, there are cracks and stuff in between. And as you can see, it doesn't have the giant flaps that unfold with the missiles, because I do have the same cannons here, but instead of those giant flaps with the missiles, I instead have them folding out from the inside like that. And I'll move to a frontal view because it's kind of hard to see it because it's all black tiling and it kind of just blends together from that angle. But on both sides, that does unfold and everything. So here they are from that angle. These can also be seen in episode 2, but these were not on the Firespray stock model that Django Fett stole. Instead, he installed these and the rapid fire cannons on his own. Well, maybe not on his own, but those were his own modifications. So those just fold away, and there is a little bit of a crack where you can still see the missiles in there, and these are for flick fire missiles, so if I wanted to, I could take them out in a shooting position or something like that if I wanted to make a display, but that's just how it is there. So those are all folded away and everything, and yeah, as mentioned earlier, the black kind of just slopes into the rest of the gray base, but that was it really for that. So yeah, the gun mounts and also the missiles are actually joined together, and they stud into the back of this plate, just because I wanted a firmly rooted position. The only other thing that I wanted to show you guys that I have changed is how the sides of the Firespray open up. On the last one they hinged, I'm pretty sure, and on this one they still do hinge, but it's just a little bit more, not tedious, but yeah, it's really not that tedious. But this will be the other thing that I want to show you. So these slide out as they're just connected with Technic cross axles. These connect to another piece inside that actually performs the friction that gets it to stay in any position that you want it to be in, so they don't just slide around aimlessly. But if you were to just connect it with a Technic cross axle, they would slide out ridiculously easily and slide around, and that would be a terrible idea. So after that, you can basically just pull off this socket piece, and you can see that piece on the inside that the line is very bad, but there it is. So moving back up, this whole thing, once it's disconnected, this whole panel can basically hinge to about there. So I'll go ahead and show you the other thing that I built on the inside. It's very basic, but it's just another thing that was in the cross section that I wanted to include. So here we go. So here's the inside of that panel. You can see that repeating blaster cannon right there, and that opens up. But that is not the point. Instead, I have this platform here, which is what people would stand on when the vehicle is flying in its vertical position. So this hatch does open up so that you can get to the other rooms. I would have to actually take this entire panel off to show you that better, so maybe I'll do that instead. But yeah, so this opens up, and then over here there's a computer, and in the cross section, the computer basically continues in a archway the entire way around. But just because of the way that the panels were built and everything, that wasn't completely an option. So maybe if I have more modifications I make to this later, that may become present, but that's not really going to be a focus of mine. So let's go ahead and take off that panel and hopefully get a little better lighting in there. Okay, here we are. So the lighting's not much better, but I opened up the panel on the other side so that you could maybe get a little bit more light in there. So the hatch again does open up, and the minifigure can fit through there. The circular base of it is just made by 2 archways connected with Technic pins, which is not really a legal technique, quote legal, by what Lego would use in their sets, I believe. But it functions and it stays in place just fine. And then this is all just melded into that same area with these different types of slopes. The computer is also just some blue transparent pieces that kind of make it look like a holographic screen sort of thing, and then just some different control buttons, and that's basically all there is to that. Interior remains the same, so you can see this is the door. Here's moving that from the outside, and you can maybe just a little bit see that ladder that's in the back going up this way, and then the internal supports of the ship. So yeah, that's basically all there is to that. So I'll go ahead and put it all back together, and closing thoughts. And here we are with the playback on and everything like that. So obviously this is not a 100% polished model. It's not something that you would pick up and play with, and I think anything of this scale would not be a play model as it is. But I still think that, you know, with the, as far as I know, the end of what I'm going to be doing with this, I still think it accomplished what I wanted it to do. It is, you know, full minifig scale. I even went on Lego.com actually, and I looked up the AT-ATs, the new UCS minifigure scale AT-AT. Looked at the size of that, and the way that the Firespray and an AT-AT are actually supposed to compare, it's actually just about perfect size. So that's definitely a big triumph for me. It has all of the interior space, maybe even a little bit more than it actually has in the cross sections if you actually go and do your research on those. And from the outside, it looks pretty decent as a display model and everything. So yeah. I don't really have much else to say about this. If you guys have other ideas that either just completely new things you want me to build, or maybe, you know, just modifications you want me to make on this, or things that you would want to see me do with this type of thing, definitely put a comment or email. I'll put the channel email below in the description. But yeah, that's basically all there is to it. I wish you all the best of luck in building anything of this. I know that the Book of Boba Fett just came out. That came out yesterday. I watched it. It was great. I loved it. Thought it was actually a little bit too short as far as the first episode goes, just because of how cut up it is, but this isn't a review video on that. But obviously I think that there's definitely going to be a surge of MOCs of these types of things, so I hope that with all of my failures and maybe a little bit of successes in what I've learned and said, hopefully that's a little bit helpful if anyone's trying to do something like that. So yeah, that's all there is from me. I hope you guys all have a great day and keep on building.